Hey there, I hope you're doing great today. I wanted to record a new video today, and it's got to do with Christmas and pagan worship and that type of thing, and Easter and all those type of things. What, I'm not really going to spend a lot of time today trying to justify anything. I'm going to actually use some scriptures and and talk to you a little bit. And so it's really cool just to come right out of the Bible about something whenever it's uh, it's being used. Let's see. Yeah, Jeremiah chapter 10. When the Bible's being used, then we know, it's not something that's just a story or something that's been made up or something that's going on that's really strange type of doctrine. We want to make sure uh, we're actually doing things that are real, that are not fake, that are not made up by man, that are not made up by, uh, made by anybody, just made up. We want to teach you the truth. So I'm going to read from Jeremiah chapter 10. This is about the Christmas tree, and these are some of the things that God despised. And he said, "Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord: Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold, they fasten it with nails and with hammers, and that it not move not." In other words, they stand it up over there like the Christmas tree. That's what it's talking about. It's an evergreen tree. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Now, if I saw, if I was doing, most people have trouble trying to let go of Christmas and the holidays and things like that. But I'm here to tell you that in all reality, sorry about looking around a little bit, I was distracted there. In all reality, if I read out of the scripture something that described a Christmas tree and to a T, and God said, "Don't do it, don't fashion yourself as the heathen does," then I wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't participate. I wouldn't go along with it. I wouldn't I wouldn't be no part of it. If God said, "Don't you dare do this," I would not do it then. So I mean, we need to understand that and the thing of it is that there's a whole lot more to this than there's a whole lot more to this stuff than what we realize. It's just like with Sunday and the calendar and how the calendar's been established and all those different things that were established under sun worship. And if you really want to understand where all this came from, you want to do some research back to even to the days of the Garden of Eden. But really, Nimrod is really where this type of thing came from. And so, what we really want to do is be aware of the fact that these things are not just, they're not, I don't want to just teach something that I don't know anything about. I've done a lot of research about this type of thing, about the Christmas thing and about the Easter thing, and how that this was paganism and it got put into the God said, "Don't mix up things. Don't bring their abominations before me and mix it with my stuff." In other words, if God gave them something to do, He said, "Don't mix it up with this other stuff." Nowhere in the Bible does it say for us to celebrate the birth of Christ. And nowhere in the Bible actually does it say, other than the Passover, was when Christ said that whenever they did the Passover, they also did, He said, "This is my blood." in the New Testament, and when he said that, we should be doing what we call now the Lord's Supper. Really, in all reality, that's not the Lord's Supper. It was given that name uh, in the translations, which was really a sickening ideal. There's a lot of things, guys, that has been really manipulated and turned into something they're not. In all reality, what we need to really start realizing is that there's a lot of things that have been changed, and the Lord has called me to correct those errors and to teach about these eras and teach about paganism. If you want to do the research, you need to do it, but you need to look for the understanding of what Constantine did and how he changed the whole system the way he did. And this turtleneck is really uncomfortable, but it's really a nice shirt. And anyway, I like it other than having to sit around in it. Some things around my neck, I don't like neckties, but I do wear them occasionally, do wear a suit. But anyway, the bottom line is that these pagan things that have been put in by Constantine, you should really look into and see what it was that actually Constantine actually changed. And the fact that he was a pagan worshiper and an idol worshiper, how he took and incorporated into he took paganism and incorporated it into Christianity. And here's the thing about that. That's an abomination. Um, you need to be careful what you just go along with and what you just believe in. If you have someone tell you something, you should do some research, look into it, find out the history on Constantine, how he did what he did. I mean, there's a lot of history. I've got a lot of research and a lot of history um, out there, and these videos that I'm doing on this paganism and stuff, I'm just barely giving you something to taste of. These last couple of, well, I didn't actually post the first video. I didn't really like it, so I didn't post it. So what I want to do now is I really want to talk to you about this and sort of bring some things out. See, Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus. And there's a lot of lies been told, or Yeshua. No, it has nothing to do with him at all. Christmas has nothing to do with, everybody says, now we need to remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. Well, he is not. He's not the reason for the season. The thing about Christmas was it was incorporated into Christianity, and they took and said, you know what the December the 25th is? Yeah, well, you need to know what it is. It's the winter solstice. It's time for the winter solstice, and the shortest time of the year. The reason why that the sun god worshippers, and that's why you see halos behind the heads of Jesus and the apostles and all those people, because that's not a sign of holiness. That's a sign of the sun that is behind their heads. You can do the research. You can find it out for yourself. But this Sunday worship is really, you guys really don't realize that Sunday is a day that was set aside for Sunday worship. You might want to think about that. And you might want to think about how that the Babylonian system has got you wound up tight into this whole thing. You might want to realize, you might say, well, this guy here, he don't know nothing. Well, you know what? I won't claim to know anything except Jesus Christ or Yeshua, the Messiah, Hamashiach. I won't claim to know anything but Him crucified. And that's the only thing I know. But I'm going to tell you this, in doing the research and understanding what's going on with this pagan thing, there's a lot of things that have been put into the whole Sunday worship stuff. And, everybody has grown up and they've had experiences and they've had fellowship with God. They've gotten born again in the Sunday churches and different things. And they say, well, God moves in me and I feel His Spirit and all that stuff. Well, one thing I'm going to tell you, if you know to do good and doeth it not, it's sin unto you. In other words, once you begin to realize these things, you don't have an excuse after that. You'll be judged by them. And you need to go in the scriptures. You need to study these things out for yourself. You don't need to take my word. You also need to study history and see what Constantine did, how he took and the days, and find out how the days were named and what Sunday was. Sunday was actually a set aside time to worship the sun. And Saturday is Saturn's day. Has this whole calendar system. You can see a calendar standing right there behind me. That's not my calendar, and I'm not against having a calendar in my house. That's not what I'm saying. But that calendar system was set up on the sun for Sunday worship, for sun worship. They base everything on worshiping of the sun, and you really need to take notice here in how all this is working. How if you'll do some research and you'll really look into some of these things, you're going to see some things that you really had no clue about. If you understand how how God despised idol worship, he said, don't be a heaven worshiper. Don't worship things in heaven. We just read about that, and they're dismayed by the things in the heavens. In other words, they were amazed at him. They looked up to him. They looked at the moon and worshiped the moon. They looked at the sun and worshiped the sun. They looked at the stars and worshiped the stars. And it says that he says they worship the creature rather than the creator. Now, Romans is plain about that. Paul is very plain about that type of stuff. And he's talking about all those things that went on in the Old Testament, how they were or in the days of Moses and Elijah and Ezekiel and all those days of all those people. That's what he's talking about. What went on then? And Paul plainly told, we think we know something nowadays, but we really, because if a man thinks he knoweth anything, let him take heed lest he fall. And I'm saying that as a caution to me. I'm saying that as a caution to you. I'm saying that as a caution to anyone who thinks he has everything figured out, because I learn as I go how much that I really do not have figured out, and I really don't want to. I really don't want to. I really don't want to. Sorry, I really don't want to make you think that I have everything figured out. I've got a lot to learn. I've been learning every day since I started this venture, since the Lord started taking me on this venture. Now, there was a lot of things I knew about, but I would never stand up in the past and told anybody anything about the things that I knew in church, because I knew they weren't going to accept them, and I wasn't sure that I was ready to accept some of these things. And so I had to go through a process, and I had to process some of this stuff. And then after the Lord called me or set me out or told me that to do this, I have not stopped. And what we need to realize is in that I'm under obedience to Him, not to you. I'm serving you by telling you. Excuse me. I'm serving you by telling you. I'm serving Him by doing what He says. And here's the thing. In all that, I'm not going to just try to gain popularity. I don't want popularity. I don't even care about popularity. I really do not care about anything to do with popularity. I don't have any reason to try to gain popularity. I count everything in my life done that I might win Christ, just like Paul said. In other words, I count it as worthless, a waste dump. And I can sit and tell you a lot of things that I've done and accomplishments I've accomplished in my life, but it doesn't really matter. But if you really want some accreditation, some people like accreditation. Well, I was associated with a church, home church. I won't name who they are, because since I've started on this venture, I'm sure they don't want anything to do with me now, teaching what I've been teaching about, because they do everything I say you're not supposed to do, just about. But I didn't turn on them. I was led by the Lord. And here's the thing is I still love them, and I still believe there's saved people there, and I still believe that God is working in those people. I'm not here to judge people. I'm here to tell you the truth. But I was there for 20 years. I went to college ever since I was 19 years old. I'm 40. That next month I'll be 49 years old. I have, and that's how long I've been in college. I studied psychology for 4 years, and I studied theology for the remainder of my life. I went to studied several different denominational churches. I went to several different types of churches, and the reason why I did that was under the command of the Lord to study things, certain things out, and so I did. I followed what He showed me, and I've been to several. I've had several different Bible studies with different types of churches and different religions, and I'm not just trying to be closed-minded. I've not discounted anybody just because I thought this church was right or wrong, this didn't make it right or wrong. I wanted to know the truth, so that's what I've done. But God has set me out to follow His direction and not man's direction, not by no means. And so I've tried to follow God's direction. I've been trying to get a hold of what He's shown me. And so I've got a long ways to go, but I'm learning. And the reason why I'm bringing these things out today, and I've been associate pastor, I've been a senior pastor, and I'll tell you why I bring these things out in just a minute. I've worked in evangelism in the streets. I had street ministry. I've established churches. I've helped to restructure churches once they've fallen and are just about fallen to the ground. I've helped restructure those churches, helped disciple men and women in the ministry. I've trained and developed several ministers in the ministry and to preach the gospel, and they're still continuing to preach the gospel. They're still continuing on the road of development, and I played a part in their discipleship, discipling. I'd probably say 7 or 8, 10 ministers throughout my lifetime. That's quite a few, if you ask me. And and so they're still preaching the gospel. They preach in jails. They preach in the street. They work in ministries inside churches, and they're good ministers, and so on and so forth. But I don't want you to think I'm a wise kook, a kook somewhere that don't know what he's talking about. And so I'll give you that information, but I don't think we need that information. The power of the Holy Spirit is working in what I'm doing and identifying what I'm doing. And I wanted to get these things out here because this is going to be a good series. It's going to be a really very educational series. I think it's the right time of year to be doing it because the celebration of Christmas is coming up. Today is the 22nd day of December, and it's coming up in a couple of days. And what you need to do is you need to recognize how evil that this day is. So I want to, and Easter, you need to know what this is all about. But we're not going to get any more into it today. I wanted to get a few things out there. I want to quote a scripture to you. And so I'm going to get off here. I'm going to get back to you on the next video. This is video number 1, and Christmas, Easter, and paganism, and that's what we're going to be talking about, and sun god worship. And so we'll get back to you next time. I appreciate you listening today. Hope you've had a good time listening. I hope I've said some things that will help you, but we're really just laying some groundwork now, trying to get these things off the ground to get them started. And I'm going to give you some information. I've got some tools of information here I'm going to use to teach you with. But thank you very much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.